Welcome to Iceland. My name is Gylfi, and I will be your honest guide as we explore the town of Tórshavn in the rural northeast. And let's start with the classic question. What comes to mind when Icelanders think of this village? And I would say the local residents expressing their frustrations about the roads, the job situation, airline connection, or the complete rural Icelandic complaint package. So one has to wonder, of course, is the village as dull as it sometimes sounds in the media? And it's only one way to find out. So welcome to Tórshavn. The village Tórshavn is located on the northern coast of the Langanes Peninsula, and it shares its name with the capital of the Faroe Islands. And the name Tórshavn means the harbor of Thor, the thunder god. With a population of 380, Tórshavn serves as the administrative center of the Langanesbyggð municipality, which also includes the nearby village Bakkafjörður, and we are just about as far away from Reykjavík as we possibly can be. And interestingly, Tórshavn is not situated by the official Ringa Road, which was originally never intended to serve as the tourist guideline it turned out to be, like I discuss in another video that I'm linking to. The village is, however, by the official Arctic Coastway, which is, in my opinion, a good concept, although I believe the marketing could be way stronger. And despite the fact that geographically speaking the village is quite isolated, the situation looks way more favorable, looking at facts like they enjoy direct flights to Akureyri 5 days a week, and Akureyri Airport is actually an excellent hub, allowing for easy and fast access to the city. And the road to Akureyri has improved dramatically over the last few decades, so it can no longer be said that this is an isolated settlement, although the winters can be harsh. And I was pleasantly surprised to learn that the population has remained stable since the turn of the century, making the situation here much better than in the neighboring villages, and that can be seen as a significant defensive victory. So let's move to history, starting with the question, why is this village here? And there are limited historical sources available regarding this location. For instance, the Book of Settlements mentions this location only briefly, so we know absolutely nothing about the first 600 years. Not until German merchants visited Tórshavn in the second half of the 16th century, and that was before the Danish trade monopoly came into effect in 1602, and when Icelanders were finally allowed to engage in free trade again in 1787, it took a while for Tórshavn to take off, despite its status as a certified trading post since 1846. At that time, many people in the region lived on the Langanes Peninsula, and in the early 1900s, when fishing boats grew larger, it was the port facilities in Tórshavn that caused the population on the peninsula to move here. And the industrial history of Tórshavn evolved with advancements in fishing and processing, and it is only due to the presence of strong fishing companies that the settlement continues to exist still today. So it's no surprise that the largest employer in the area is a fish processing company, and they also operate a fish meal factory, and these workplaces, they provide close to 100 jobs, making the village completely dependent on fishing and fish processing. In terms of infrastructure, Tórshavn is relatively well equipped. The community has a kindergarten and an elementary school. They have a sports center with a good indoor swimming pool. And I actually looked at some of the last council meetings just to see what topics they are discussing these days. And the main topic now is the mold that they found in the schoolhouse, which is a significant financial setback. And I also found the usual conversations about bringing jobs to the community, the typical problems that will never be solved by the so-called experts from the city, because ideas, they need to be homegrown to be effective. And tourism is, of course, one of the obvious solutions. And to be honest, I think it's a big mistake when small villages and municipalities leave the marketing work for centralized tourism organizations. In my opinion, local marketing should be done locally. And the tourist review I'm making a part of this series is in this case about food, because there aren't that many companies around. And what makes this review a bit strange is that it starts 50 years ago, when I came here for the first time as a young boy. And I always loved to stop in whatever town my family found along the road, because it meant a hot dog or some treat. And unfortunately, the hot dog was served on a dish with a knife and a fork, where the hot dog was lying on a sorry-looking slice of a white bread, because the hot dog buns were sold out. And I almost cried. This was so lame, and I never really forgot about how disappointing this was, although I never stopped loving good junk food by the road. And last summer, 50 years later, when I arrived to Þórshöfn, I remembered this story, and I was very hungry because there was no diner in the village of Bakkafjörður, where I had just come from, and my expectations were still limited, but the verdict I gave them was simple, 10 out of 10, and I'm almost never that generous, but they deserved it, the local diner, because I could get bacon and eggs for a very reasonable price, which is always a very smooth way to my heart. So I'll be back. And it's appropriate to see what TripAdvisor says. And the results were no surprise. I found 3 guest houses listed, and as for activities, according to TripAdvisor, there is nothing to do in the village. So I have to ask myself, why didn't anyone get the idea to list the local museum on TripAdvisor? It doesn't cost anything. And this is, of course, a story about lame marketing, not even using the free tools out there. But the convenience of having the GPS coordinates of the few available places there can be very valuable. And since my background is in marketing, I will always talk about these things as I see them. And the biggest untapped opportunity for a village and the municipality is probably to use Þórshöfn as a gateway to the Langanes Peninsula, which is a highly underrated natural gem, rich in history and raw beauty. And we can even see this raw beauty a few times a year when the fog clears. And yes, the weather in the northeast is a bit of a drawback, to be honest. However, the peninsula alone deserves a separate video. The abandoned village there, the wildlife, and then it's the Bay Area that offers many coastal formations. So that video is on my schedule for 2026. And I'm actually quite sure that most of the locals know what kind of opportunities this location has to offer in terms of tourism. And when I was browsing on hotels.com and booking.com, I found several guest houses with reviews indicating that visitors were generally very happy. And the local people appear to be good hosts. And as for the future of tourism, they have this unusual problem to deal with since this tiny municipality has the biggest business plans in Icelandic history underway, or the so-called Finnafjörður project, which aims to capitalize on the new Arctic shipping routes expected to open in the coming decades, or to build a shipping hub less than 30 kilometers away from the town. And that project is actually way larger than this community would ever handle. And I somehow doubt that it will turn into reality, since not only would the project have to start from no infrastructure at all, not even electricity, they would also have to deal with facts like there is no local workforce to do a project of this size, and the harbor plans alone could easily close other doors to tourism activities that thrive on wild nature. So I worry that this mega project idea that is a long shot will only keep other ideas on hold. Ideas like to make the Langanes Peninsula into a national park, which is interesting, but never a convincing idea with an industrial park on hold next door. And personally, I think that the local people should not wait for this national park idea to become a reality through institutions in Reykjavik. They should do it themselves on their own terms and the terms of the landowners, of course. So I don't want to see this peninsula sterilized by bureaucracy. And before I end this today, I'm going to talk about the real estate market. When I did my first check in November 2025, I found 8 properties for sale, 2 of which are new, which indicates a positive outlook. Otherwise, they wouldn't be building new houses there. And shortly before finishing the video in December, I checked again. And by then, I only found 5 properties, so the market is obviously alive. We can expect to find a decent property for less than 2,000 euros per square meter, less than half of what we could expect to pay in the city. But on the downside, if the employment situation worsens, houses will not only fall in value, they can also become unsellable, making it very hard for the owners to move. It is, however, good news that the village was connected to the fiber optic network last year, which means new opportunities for those who can work online from home with a good connection and enjoy the low housing cost and the low-key tranquility that is becoming harder and harder to find. So we need places like this. And I am, in fact, very optimistic about the future prospects for tourism in this area, even though this should never become a tourist hotspot. But they only just started, as I see things. And that will be better understood after I make my video about the Langanes Peninsula. And until then, I have other town videos close to ready. And my next video will be covering the nearby village Raufarhöfn. It took me 2 attempts to film that village due to fog, and it will be online very soon. And I will also remake some of my oldest episodes, since I'm working with better equipment and more experience now than when I started this project. And there are links in the video description for those who want to support this task of mine. That is more and less about to show my country with an honest approach, to make travel planning easier with realistic expectations, and to give those who can't travel for some reason the chance to experience what I experienced while on the road. And with that, I'm sending you best regards from my home country, Iceland.